about the topic of astrology and magic in Halacha. In Halacha, notice, no less. We're going to look at sources. I have to say, I have to apologize. I don't think this is the comprehensive discussion of the topic, but it's basically the sources that I've come across recently on the topic of astrology in Halacha. I think that it's interesting to discuss because we will see, I hope, that there's a lot in the world that happens that we don't see.
Rabbi,
yes.
Before we start the shiur, Michael and me, we actually had a question. It's more like me. We have a shiur with a Rothman.
Oh, good.
We have on Pirkei Avot, right? And it says, and I think one of the Mishnah that says then, basically, Marbe Nashim, Marbe Kishuf, is it? Like witchcraft.
Oh.
And ask Rabbi if you could explain what does it mean. Actually, witchcraft in this context, what does it mean? What does the Hebrew word imply, actually?
Kishuf. So the word kishuf, we might not discuss it today, but there's a very interesting discussion in the Sefer HaChinuch. This is not on the sheet.
Exactly. Yeah, that's why.
Yeah. No, so I mean, I don't know that much, but I have read. I thought it was fascinating. The Sefer HaChinuch is a book that goes through all of the 613 mitzvot and tries to give some sort of rationale, Shorshei HaMitzvah, to give you the basis for each one. Yeah, it's probably over here. It is over here in the corner. So there is a mitzvah. There is a mitzvah in Parashat. Well, it's in a few places, but it's certainly in Parashat Kedoshim, the mitzvah of Sha'at Nez and Kil'ayim. The mitzvah of Sha'at Nez and Kil'ayim, that's mixing, you shouldn't crossbreed crops. We don't crossbreed like a seeds. You don't. Grafting, that's, you're such a gift, grafting. And then also wool and linen, we don't put them together. There's a whole sort of list of various mitzvot that all go together and all talk about this idea of mixing things that shouldn't be mixed. And the Sefer HaChinuch links these mitzvot to the Isur of magic, which is interesting because I wouldn't necessarily connect it shatnez, which is wool and linen, grafting and magic. And he explains, really this is all a long way of answering David's question, that the word kishuf is connected to the word machchish. Machchish is to contradict. Like we're contradicting the heavenly spheres. You know that according to our tradition, everything that grows in this world has got an angel in heaven that's guiding it. Even to the extent of every blade of grass has got a heavenly. I don't know why I'm pointing up heavens but it's got this spiritual force that's helping it grow, right? So like the apples have got their force. Everything has got the pamalia shalmala, the heavenly palace. Now, if I take two things and I mix them together, let's say I take, I don't know, an orange and a peach, and I put them together. So then I create this new fruit. There's no heavenly. This new fruit that I'm creating doesn't have a heavenly supervision. Yes, it's a good word, great word. Yes, heavenly supervision, because I've created something new, not something that was part of God's plan. You follow? And therefore, in creating it, I am machchish. I'm contradicting. I'm going against the heavenly design. And the Sefer HaChinuch explains that magic can be understood in exactly the same way, that I'm going against the heavenly design. Now, next week, oh my gosh, you are... Where do people like that? It's just amazing. We were just talking about angels this minute. It's amazing. Thank you so much. I don't know, we'll decide that. Anyway, thank you so much. That's very much appreciated, as I hope I've made clear. So, machchish, you're contradicting the like the divine plan, and kishuf is connected to that word machachish, like to contradict, because I'm going against a heavenly plan, because I'm mixing things that shouldn't be mixed. You follow? Now, it's very important, maybe this is a nice way to segue into today's discussion. When we speak about magic, a kishuf, machashefa lo techaye, when the Torah tells us we have to, you have to uproot magic. We're not talking about the guy at a kid's birthday party. Just for you to understand, what we see today as magic is not magic. I'm sorry, I feel guilty saying this to anyone who is unaware of this until now, but really,
it's not real.
Yeah, you said it. I'm sorry. No. So it is.
Getting a quarter behind my ear.
Yeah, this is all. It's achizat. It's optical. It's all illusions. So when it's a bit unfortunate because we use the word magic, and we think of like a children's entertainer. It's very important for us to understand, and the examples that we will discuss will make that clear. We're talking about something that doesn't really exist today. This concept of magic. It's still worth talking about because there is a type of magic. There are magic shows. The word still exists in our vocabulary, and it's that the concept exists. But it's important for us to know that when we speak about things leading to magic, or this is good or that's good, it's important for us to understand that we're not talking about the entertainer at a children's birthday party, but they're talking about something that contradicts the heavenly plan. You follow? Does that make sense?
That's why David Copperfield is Jewish.
Oh, you're going to have to give some context to that. You're going to have to fill us in there. I've read David Copperfield and I still don't get what you're talking about.
Well, he's Jewish.
No, not the novel. There's a.
Are you not talking about? Are you talking about Dickens?
There's an illusionist. His name is David Copperfield.
Oh, I didn't know. I see. Okay.
I don't know if that's his actual name or he took it from the novel, but.
Oh, I think I've read David Copperfield. I don't remember the magic. Anyway, thank you. Yes, okay. Sorry, all cultural references normally don't work. I'm so sorry.
It's a good thing, Ralph.
Oh, Baruch Hashem. Okay, so what I want to do today, I'd like to talk, really focus today. Our first topic is astrology. And I'll explain a minute why I want to astrology specifically this week. And then the next topic is magic. If we have time, we'll do both astrology and magic this week. If not, we'll do astrology this week and we'll discuss magic next week. Now, I was very keen to discuss astrology this week because, as you see over here on the top of the sheet, we've got how the Jewish months correspond to the star signs. Nisan over here is the month of Aries, the lamb. Iyar is Taurus, the bull. Sivan, Shavuot, which we'll come to, is Gemini. And Tammuz, Cancer. Do you see Av, the lion? Elul, Tishrei, Libra. Understand that these signs are connected to the Jewish calendar. Exactly. The most obvious one of them, is Tishrei. Tishrei, which is Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Huh?
Nisan too, the lamb of Pesach.
Oh, they're all excellent. So that's exact. So I wanted to share with you a Shem Mishmuel in a minute that really links Nisan, Iyar, and Sivan, 3 of the months together, which I want to discuss it this week. But know, just for you to know, that there is a concept, we call it mazal, the star, the signs. The stuff that people read in magazines today is rubbish. I don't know if it's read in magazines or maybe it's podcasts or some other medium by which people share this information. The stuff today, I hate to say terrible things, is probably all absolute garbage, but it's based on something which is authentic, the concept of mazal. So I just want to talk for a few minutes about the relationship between the star signs and the Jewish months, specifically as pertains to Shavuot and Gemini, and explain the connection between Shavuot and Gemini, which is why I want to talk about this today. And then afterwards, I want to talk generally about our relationship as Jews, our relationship to the Mazal. Beseder, the Mazal, which means the star signs, both in the Gemara and then afterwards in Halacha. So that's our plan for today. Is that okay?
Yeah.
That's part 1. Okay, so I'm just going to step back from everything I've said until now And I want to share with you an idea. Dar, thank you very, very much. Wish you all a l'chaim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, sha'akol niyeh b'dvaro.
Amen.
Oh, that is just fantastic. Okay, so I want to share with you an idea that I read in a book called The Shem Mishmuel. I may have learned that book with you before. Shem Mishmuel is a book of Chassidut written about 100 years ago in a city called Sokochov in Poland. The Shem Mishmuel, Rav Shmuel Bornshtein of Sokochov, is a grandson of the Kotzker Rebbe, who you may have heard of, coming from the tradition of the Choyze Milublin. It's a book that I suppose everybody finds a book that resonates with them. For me, this particular book has been, I really very much enjoy studying. So I want to share with you one of the ideas that he taught for Shavuot, and it's connected to the star signs, which is why it'll be a nice segue to talk about this halachic topic. So he asks a question. As you all know, as we all know, the students of Rabbi Akiva died. The Gemara tells us they died from Pesach until, does anyone know what the Gemara says? The Gemara says they died from Pesach until, it doesn't say Lag BaOmer, ad pros ha'atzeret, until they started coming closer to Shavuot. So there was something about the month of Nisan that caused them to not get on well with each other, and there was something about Shavuot that caused that, whatever that problem was, to disappear. Because we know that there were 24,000 people. It's very hard for us to even contemplate that number, but it's so curious that it was particularly at this time of year, Dafka from Pesach until Pros Hatzeret, until as we approach a month of the festival of Shavuot. Pros Ha'atzeret, just to spend a minute on that, as we approach Shavuot, you know that Lag BaOmer is 2/3 of the way through. Nachon? It's 2/3 of the way through, and there is a concept in Halacha, not that like each third is a milestone, and once you are 2/3 of the way through, you're already looking at the destination. So it's almost as if the light of Shavuot starts shining more strongly when you come to Lag BaOmer. You follow? That's why the Mishnah says as Pros Ha'atzeret, which we understand to be a reference to Lag BaOmer. They died from Pesach, or at least it's a machloket in Halacha, but we'll say that it's until Lag BaOmer, which is when the light of Shavuot started. So what is it that triggered this plague on Pesach, and what is it that stopped the plague on Shavuot? You follow? Okay, so the Shem Mishmuel explains, and what's interesting is it explains entirely based on the star signs. He says like this, he says, Nisan is a month of unity. It's the month in which we become the Jewish nation. Nachon? HaChodesh hazeh lachem Rosh Chodashim. And he explains that the symbol of unity is a lamb. Does anyone know why the symbol of unity might be a lamb? So he explains based on the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah. The Gemara in Rosh Hashanah tells us which shofar you can use to blow on Shavuot. And there's two types of shofar. One is the shofar of a lamb, which is Nisan, incidentally. And the other one, another option, is of a bull, and that is Iyar, nachon? Meaning that, and the Gemara tells us that we choose the one of Nisan, that is to say the lamb. We blow a ram's horn. So that is Aries. The reason why we choose the ram over the bull in blowing the shofar is because when I blow a ram's horn, that is the shofar that we use today, it makes one clear sound. But when you blow, I've never tried this, but the Gemara tells us, when you blow a bull's horn, just don't forget, just in brackets, detach it from the bull before you blow it. That's just a tip. Anyway, but when you blow the bull's horn, it makes lots of different sounds, not one sound, but many different sounds. Based on this, explains the Shem Shul, the lamb, Aries, Nisan, is a month of Jewish unity. And in fact, we see that's the month. That's why that's the month in which we become a nation. We become one in the month of Nisan, the month of one. We blow the shofar, one sound. It is the month of oneness. Clear so far?
Yes.
Okay.
But it's because Chet HaEgel, that we're not using the...
Yeah, you're right. But the Gemara talks about, you're right. You're correct, but the Gemara does talk about the different sounds as well. You're right, they're different because lo yavo kategor to be a sanegor. You don't mean the prosecuting attorney to be my defense attorney. Quite right. That's a very, very important theme throughout the Chagim, throughout Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. Excellent. So Nisan is unity. So I have to say, based on what we said, I've only strengthened my question. If Nisan is a month of unity, then that's the last month that they should be showing lack of respect to one another. You follow? I mean, if we're saying that Pesach triggered this hatred between them, so Nisan seems like the last month that would happen.
Yes.
You hear? But now listen to this. He is just brilliant. The Shem Shmuel says something, but I think this is so true. I hope you'll agree. He says like this: sometimes the closer you get to somebody, the less respect you develop for them. A bit like familiarity breeds contempt. Mm-hmm. I don't want to step on any eggshells here. But let's say you have a roommate, Nachon? The first night normally works. The first night is normally fine. You know what I mean? New guy, you don't know him at all. Put your stuff here. We're fine. But as time progresses, maybe this is not. But you understand that's exactly the problem.
It cannot be too personal. It has to have some space.
It has to have a good
Yes, exactly.
It has to have some space to have a long-term,
Exactly. When there is something of like becoming too close, too familiar. I mean, I'm saying it to you in the context, and maybe that's too close to home, but it's true in a marriage as well. You know, like on the first date, he is the nicest. I mean, you are the sweetest people in the world on your first date. Who wouldn't be the sweetest person on the first date? The question is, are you that sweet to her after 10 years of marriage? Do you know what I mean? But it's the same thing. You understand? So if this is the month of unity, that we're all one. So Rabbi Akiva is the one that taught us, we're all one, let's do this together. There's a danger, and it's so counterintuitive maybe even, because you think that unity is that it's all about unity. But no, even unity needs a boundary. But I'm not you. You still need to give people personal space. I was once in a queue. I mean, maybe I shouldn't mock too much. I was at an airport. And everybody queues up. So there's a concept. I'm not sure it existed when I was a little boy, but it's a much bigger deal now. It's like my personal space. So the norms of personal space in Israel are different to those in America. So there was like this American woman like queuing up for the passport control, I guess, or like one of the queues. And behind her was an Israeli. And he was using the norms of Israel, and she was using the norms of America. And he was basically like breathing down her throat. And she said, "Excuse me, hello, this is my space." And he had no idea.
What is
Yeah, like what are you talking about? I had no idea.
She was right, it wasn't sneers to stand so close.
Oh, Shushan, you are such a tzaddik. You're amazing. Anyway, but there is a concept of person. There is something that's me and not you. Each person's got their dignity. I need to respect you. I need to see you as something not me. You follow? And if I take my Jewish unity I don't like saying it too far, but if that is the only aspect of me, if we are just all together part of one thing, then we're not going to show respect for one another. If all we are is We are pieces in a puzzle. That's all we are, just a piece in the puzzle, but without any individuality. So then I'm not gonna. You're part of. We're the part. We're in it together. I'm not going to show respect. That's what went wrong, and that's why it was triggered by Nissan. You hear that? Nissan is the trigger for getting too close.
These were the students of Rabbi Akiva.
Students of Rabbi Akiva.
According to the energy, or let's say, if that's the word, the energy in the stars.
Exactly.
Okay.
That is Nissan. Yeah, it's not talking about if you were born at that time.
Sure. Just the energy of the month.
Exactly. Nissan is the month of unity, and they took it too far. You follow? Now, as you know, when we serve Hashem, it's very important that our Avodat Hashem is part of a community, but it also needs to be our Avodat Hashem as an individual. Like, it's not good enough for me to be Oved Hashem, as one of the Jewish people, but I also need to have my own individual prayers. Now, when I pray the Shemona Esrei, I'm not just praying for world peace, I'm praying for, peace in the Holy Land for everybody. I'm also praying for myself, that things should work out for me as an individual. You follow? We are not just pieces in the puzzle. You follow? And if we speak about Nisan, which is a month of community, of, being all together, Iyar is a month of Taurus. That's where lots of different notes from the bull. That is a month of individuality. It explains that's sort of like the opposite. That like in Nisan, we learn to become a community, and then in Iyar, we learn to become individuals, to develop our own individual relationship with our Kodesh Baruch Hu. Now, I want to put this slightly differently to the way the Shem Shmuel puts it, and to quote Rav Soloveitchik. Rav Soloveitchik from YU in America spoke about in many places, spoke about two aspects of a mitzvah when I perform a mitzvah. One part of the mitzvah he calls the Ma'aseh mitzvah, and that is the communal aspect of a mitzvah. We shake the same lulav, we make the same kiddush, we light the same Shabbat candles, we munch the same matzah, we dance at the same Rikud de Galim tomorrow. We are all part of a community, but in addition to the Ma'aseh mitzvah, there's a second aspect called the Kiyum HaMitzvah. The Kiyum HaMitzvah is my individual internalization of the mitzvah. So the truth is, Amida is a good example. We as a community say the same words, but each one of us has different thoughts. When I say Shema Kolenu, I'm thinking about, when each of us says Shema Kolenu, each one of us, we ask God to listen to my voice, to our voices. Each one of us has an entirely different prayer. So we see there's community, that is Nisan, that is the lamb, and then we have Iyar, which is the individuality. You follow? And then we conclude Shavuot is when they stopped. What happened in Shavuot? Shavuot, explains the Shem Shmuel, is when the Jewish people learned to find the balance. Learn to be both an individual and also part of the community. And he explains this to Shem Shmuel in the following way. He says, we all know there's a famous Rashi. Famous Rashi means I've heard of it. But Rashi says that the Jewish people gathered at Mount Sinai, Ka'ish Echad, Belev Echad, like one person with one soul. The Mamad Har Sinai experience, because the Torah tells us, Vayichan, they gathered there, but the word Vayichan is in the singular, indicating one person, but it's saying the community as a whole. Ka'ish Echad, Belev Echad. That's community. But the Gemara in Shabbat, Masechet Shabbat, I think it's either Peichet or Peitet, around there. The Gemara tells us a beautiful description of the Matan Torah experience, in many parts of the Matan Torah experience. And one of the things it tells us is that when we receive the Torah, and it's important for us to know that when we talk about receiving of the Torah, we're talking about people who were born into the Jewish people, but we believe people that entered the Jewish people, we were literally all there receiving the Torah, just like Moshe Rabbeinu had his individual spot with which to receive the Torah, so too each person had their spot to receive the Torah. So when you came to Matan Torah, Moshe Rabbeinu came, the usher said, "This way, you're up there," and then when Michael came, "Oh, Michael, good to see you." Like first one, right? Your table 14, and then Shushan came and David came, and each one of us came, and the ushers guided each person to their spot, and only when each one of us was at our spot was a Torah given. So this midrash was like Vayichan Sham. We weren't just like a chlomp of people. We were a group, but each person was in their particular spot. You follow? It's like we're a community, but each individual has got their role in the community. What we learned on Shavuot was to get the balance between the communal aspect of my Avodat Hashem and my individual aspect of Avodat Hashem. You follow? And then, explains the Shem Mishmuel, we see that symbolized by the star sign, Sivan. Sivan is, isn't that brilliant? Twins. Twins are people who are similar, doing the same stuff, but each one is an individual. You follow? When the Jewish people understood the balance between my individuality and my community, pros ha'atzeret, that's when the students of Rabbi Akiva stopped dying. Okay, that's a Shem Mishmuel. Joy, happiness, thoughts. Matem choshvim.
Very nice.
Apart from, about any comments? Do you agree or disagree?
I first thought that maybe Sivan is Gemini, right?
Yeah.
Because of the Luchot Abrit. Because I know there's opinion that nowadays we see the Luchot Abrit in synagogues that there are 5 commandments on one side and 5 commandments on the other side. But there's an opinion that actually there are 10 commandments on each tablet.
Right.
And it's a copy, like if you make a contract, you also have 2 contracts, one for each party of the contract.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah, so maybe they're like twins.
That's excellent. I mean, I don't think that's excellent. That's also excellent. I mean, what becomes clear from both your interpretation and this longer than I expected interpretation from the Shem Yisrael is that it's understanding the Chagim in light of the star signs. You follow? They're not random. They're very much. Any other comments, thoughts, joy, happiness?
Why Judaism doesn't have a very clear approach on this? It's something that only people who are interested go to study this. It's not something that Judaism is always preaching.
You mean it's not in the Shulchan Aruch?
Yes. That's my. It's not something. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a good question. I think in Judaism in general, we're very practical.
Because the Rabbi says about this as well.
Huh?
The Rabbi said he talks about this.
Yeah, we're going to look. The Gemara tells us some crazy stories. I might summarize them quickly just in order to save time. The 2 stories that we're going to learn in a minute. When we learn, like Limud Torah is often very practical.
Yes.
You understand? Like I was talking to somebody earlier today about the Rambam. Rambam was a rationalist.
Yes.
So he's much more interested in understanding how. The question of how is a question that engages us much more than the question of why. I can't help asking why. That's just human nature. But the question of how is a much more pertinent, because we are an active religion. Like our religion is a religion that we serve God by doing. It's not, it's not a religion entirely in my head. If it was entirely in my head, it was only theology. So then it could be that these aspects would have a larger part in the curriculum. But we're not a purely sort of theoretical, philosophical approach. The word halacha is to go. We're about doing much more than we are about thinking. You know what I mean? Not that we don't think, but sort of the goal is to do the right thing. And that I wonder whether that these teachings are here, but they're not. They're not the first thing you would study, because the first thing is to know, You know how to light Shabbat candles, how to open a siddur. That makes sense? Okay.
It's like the Rambam explains in Mishnah Torah why he's written that. So you know the mitzvahs, they're all here. Okay, go do them, and now you can focus on other teachings.
Yes, exactly. Yes, the rationalist, the Yekim, exactly. Yeah, excellent, quite right. I think that's probably part of it. The Gemara in a few places talks about the mazal, but I just want to quote the Gemara in Shabbat. The Gemara in Shabbat. I put it in Hebrew and English. 1 second. Let me just have a little break. Talk among yourselves. Okay. Okay. So there's a fascinating discussion in the Talmud about to what extent mazal is like the planetary constellations. So to what extent are we bound by them? So there's two opinions in the Gemara. One opinion is Rabbi Hanina, who says, yes, we are very, very much bound by it. You know, sort of a lot of what we do is predetermined. And Rabbi Yochanan disagrees, and he says, no, Ein Mazal Yisrael, that we are not bound by the planetary influence. Meaning, it's true that the planetary, they exist and they impact on the world, but it's not a foregone conclusion. And the Gemara tells a couple of stories. I'm going to summarize two of the stories. They're both over here. The story about Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva's daughter, when she was born, was told by an astrologer that she's going to get bitten by a poisonous snake on her wedding day, and that's going to be it. When I say that's going to be it, I mean it's time for them to move into the world to come. And you can imagine she was very, very nervous. And it came to the daughter of Rabbi Akiva's wedding day, and she was wearing some sort of dress. And then in the evening, when she went to bed, after the wedding, she took off this pin and put the pin in the wall. And then when she woke up in the morning, she removed the pin from the wall, and she realized that the pin had stabbed the eye and killed a snake that was in the wall. Had she not put the pin in the wall, the snake would have come out during the night, bitten her on that night, and it would have been the end. So what's interesting about the story is the snake was there, but she managed somehow, miraculously, to overcome it. You follow? Now, Rabbi Akiva then said to her, what did you do? It can't just be that you merited this for no reason. She told her father, Rabbi Akiva, an amazing story. She said, this is all in the sheet, I'm just summarizing it. She said that at the wedding meal, a poor man came in without any food. And everybody was busy with her wedding. No one attended to this poor person. So she took her portion from her own wedding meal and gave it to this poor man. And then her father, Rabbi Akiva, said, Tzedakah tatzil mimavet, like this great, courageous act of hers saved her life. You hear the story? So, it's true that the planetary influences exist, but she managed to overcome them. Is that clear? Any questions?
She did some kind of tshuva or tikkun for that she should have done. That's why she merited to live longer, no?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it meaning the planetary influences exist, but she managed to overcome them.
No,
But
but
it's on Israel. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, but for example, in Nevi'im, it's like if you do the right thing, nothing's bad going to happen to you. It's or in the Torah, it's a klalot ve'brachot.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's you could like see the same concept here too.
I think it's different here only because there was a prediction that something
Yeah,
was going
it's
to
like
happen to
nevuah.
her.
If it's bad, you can do
Like
tshuva and nothing's going to happen, or it's going to be better.
Yeah, I don't know if it's nevuah. Probably, I'm not sure if that's the right word to describe
In the
it here.
Nevi'im,
Yeah,
yeah. If Am Yisrael is good and good stuff happens to it, if
yeah.
not, then they get
Even if there's a bad
Yeah.
prediction.
even as ever you can outgo the bad prediction.
Yeah, it's true. I think that what you're saying is true. I'm just thinking out loud as you're talking. That's true, sort of. I think what you're describing is quite a wide description. Meaning, in general, if we do good, then we will be rewarded with good. If we do bad, we'll be punished by bad. Which I think is, I mean, it's a complicated topic
that's
in
like
general.
the basic concept.
Yeah. That's a concept. That's true.
Of the Torah.
Right, but here we're talking about something much more specific than that. This is a particular person at a particular time. There was a prediction based on the stars that something was going to happen, and she managed to avert it because she's not bound by the stars, meaning the stars do not determine our fate, which is very, I don't know what the word is, very, it's, empowering. That's the word.
That's why we're not allowed to read the stars.
That's what?
We're not allowed to study or read. I don't know.
Yeah, I think we don't know how to nowadays.
We don't know how to.
So I think that's probably part of it.
Even if we knew, we couldn't.
So we're going to talk about that in a minute.
Okay.
The next source we're going to, the Gemara, well, yeah. We'll come to that in a minute. I just want to tell you one more story. The second story, unfortunately, is not quite as good as the first story. The second story is also somebody who was influenced by the stars. His name is Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak. When Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak was born, astrologers told his mother that he is going to be a thief. And do you know what his mother did? Do you know this story? So his mother made sure that his head was always covered. Now, I don't know if this might be true. This might be not true. I don't know if this is true. But in order, she kept, in fact, this is true. But this is one of the, why we justify, why we understand the wearing of a kippah is from the story of Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak, that his mother protected him by making sure that her son always wore a kippah. And just as a side on that, in people call it a yamulka, that is like yirat ka, like fear of heaven. They wanted to make sure that he maintained yirat ka, maintained fear of heaven, and therefore made sure that he was always wearing kippah. One day he was sitting and a wind blew his kippah off him, and he was sitting at the bottom of a date palm, and he was so lost that control because the kippah blew off. He climbed up the tree. I don't know how old he was, and he was biting with his teeth into the date. Meaning, as soon as the kippah came off, that desire to steal became uncontrollable. You follow? So it's interesting that it does seem that the stars are not to be ignored, but they can be overcome. You hear that? Does that make sense? Okay, so that's so far from the Gemara, from the Gemara that we saw until now. I want to go now to Halacha. I'm going to miss out sources 2 and 3, just in order to continue to save a bit of time. Well, I'll just mention briefly. We say Mishenichnas Adar Marbim Besimcha, Mishenichnas Av Ma'atim Besimcha. That those are times that are considered, Av is a time of bad luck for the Jewish people. So we don't, if we can avoid going to a court case, we're less likely to succeed in the month of Av. You're more likely to succeed in the month of Adar. So it comes back to David's question, to somebody's question about why do we not? Why is this not more halachically discussed? There are halachic ramifications of this idea, but the sort of the basis isn't something that's discussed. But we certainly know the songs. Misha nichnas adar marbim besimcha. Misha nichnas av, unfortunately also mema'atim besimcha. Those ideas that there's a month where things go well for the Jewish people. That's Adar. We have a month that things go badly for the Jewish people. That is Av. That concept is also based on astrology. That's we don't follow the stuff from today, but just to be aware of that. Okay.
So is like the last day before Av like the luckiest day?
You mean because it's not Av yet?
No, because so we do the court case in Tammuz because Barbim besimcha. So the simcha goes up, and in Tammuz it starts going down. In Av it starts going down.
Right. Oh, I see.
You see what I mean?
Oh, clever. Oh, you are good.
I think it's I didn't make it up. I think it's.
You are Shushan. That is brilliant. Did you hear that? You are so clever.
I think it's.
Like the saddest day of the year then is the last day of Shvat. Is that right?
No.
But following what you're saying, no. The happiest day,
yeah.
like the worst day is the last day of Shvat.
Yeah.
I've never heard that. Such an interesting idea.
No, maybe it's Likutei Halachot. I'm not sure.
Fascinating. If you see that, I would love to see that.
I studied it like before Purim or something. So
that is such a clever idea. Well, if anyone's going to be studying Purim stuff, it'll be you. So that makes sense. That's a fascinating idea. I've never heard that. Thank you so much. Okay. Any other comments, thoughts? Everything clear until now? Joy? Okay. Now halacha. The Bet Yosef. The Bet Yosef tells us about taking chances here. כל מה שאדם מכיר במערכת הכוכבים ומהלכתן כגון אלו חוברי שמיים החוזים בכוכבים, אין זו בכלל נחש שזו חוכמה גדולה גזירה שגזר הקדוש ברוך הוא מששת ימי בראשית. If somebody understands astrology, there's nothing wrong with using your knowledge of astrology to understand what's going to happen. It's a chokhmah gedolah. It's a great wisdom, and God created the world from the 6th day of the creation using this lahanhik ba'olamo kach, that the world should run in this way. So studying the stars is not anything wrong. You follow? I'm not sure that we nowadays are able to do this. You know that the Bet Yosef, Rav Yosef Karo, not that I know very much about him, but he lived in Sfat, and he used to study with an angel on Friday nights. He was a very interesting. Obviously, we know him as a halachist, but he was, obviously connected also to things that are beyond what the rational that we see and hear. So it's not surprising to read this in him, but it's important that it's true and we can use it. Al Kain, therefore, he says, יתפלל כל חסיד לבטל ממנו גזירות המזל, כי מאת אדון הכל בא הכל ובידו לשנות ולעשות כחפצו. And therefore when I daven, if things are going bad, I should ask God to help me come out of the decree of my predestined mazal. You follow? That's even, the greeting that we wish people when we say mazal tov is an acknowledgement of this whole concept. I'm appreciating that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has created your world in a way that is obviously good for you this minute. Do you follow?
Is it more like Hashgacha Pratit than astrology?
Well, it wouldn't be. I don't know if it's Pratit, Hashgacha Pratit. This is Hashgacha Klalit.
Like if something good happens to you or something, then you it's
is Hashgacha Pratit breaking out, or is that working within nature or breaking against what should have happened?
Yeah, it's I know it seems kind of strange to me that it's bound to the stars and not by the plan of God Himself.
No. So if you have a look at the words of the Bet Yosef when he describes it, he describes this Ma'arechet HaKochavim, which is the star, the arrangement of the stars. He calls it a Gezeirah Shekazar HaKadosh Baruch Hu Mesheshet Yimei Bereshit. I'm not sure. I'm just thinking out loud now. There is a very, very interesting debate, and the Rambam and others talk about the concept of Hashgacha Pratit. Meaning, to what extent is God involved in every detail that happens to everybody all of the time? The way that the Bet Yosef is describing things over here, and I think this echoes the way the Rambam looks at the concept of Hashgacha in general as well, and that is that God created a system, and God monitors the system, but it's almost as if HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not involved in every aspect of everything that everyone does all the time. Rather, a lot of the world is God Gezeirah Shegazar HaKadosh Baruch Hu Mesheshet Yimei Bereshit. This is the world that God created, and nature is the world continuing the course that God created. You follow? The other view is no, every single second is like mechadesh b'tuvo b'chol yom tamid, that God is creating and recreating every second of every day. So every moment is a recreation of God's input in everything. You follow? Now, this statement of the Bet Yosef seems to follow the first approach. Nachon? That there's a Gezeirah Shegazar HaKadosh Baruch Hu Mesheshet Yimei Bereshit. This is the world that God created, and I don't know if the word is intervention, but so that God's involvement is not in every detail of everything that happens every minute of every day, but rather we're just connecting to the way that God created the world in the first 6 days, and that's how he seems to be describing it here. So in terms of this hashgacha, it is hashgacha, but hashgacha from the 6 days of creation, not from this minute. You see that?
But there is a verse that says that even a leaf that falls, it's with Hashem's permission.
Exactly.
Meaning that Hashem is controlling every
Oh, so that's the other side. I'm sure the Rambam would disagree. Like when a leaf falls off the tree, is it because God said, I want that leaf to fall off this minute? Mm-hmm. Or is it this is the way God created the world, so then things happen? Mm-hmm. The Rambam is saying it's not that God is involved with every leaf and every tree, saying, right, that's not.
Why not?
Huh?
But he can.
No, he can, you're right.
He can supervise every.
Nachon, but I think the Rambam is similar to what Rabbi Yosef Karo is saying over here, and this is the Gezeirah Shegazar Kodesh Baruch Hu Mesheshet Yimei Bereshit. That God created the world, and it's you're right. He could. I'm not sure what the value of. What the value of looking at it this way or looking at it that way. It could be to do with God consciousness. Like if God's literally involved. It was a complicated question.
It is there.
Yes. How are you doing? How's your holy brother? Did he get back safely to Sderot?
Yeah. I thought about I saw in the Mikdash that God did only the childbirth, rain, and the dead resurrection or what the dead body. What did we say? Resurrection.
Like resurrection.
Resurrection. Tchiyat HaMetim.
Yes. That tree God did it by himself, and then another was done by the angel also. That I saw in the Mikdash.
Where did you read that?
Mikdash.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm not an expert on this area, I have to say. But those are two different schools. Okay. But we understand the two schools. To what extent is there intervention in every moment, and is the world sort of.
And what do you personally feel?
I don't know. Chassidim like to say that everything is.
There's like a Baal Shem Tov story, I believe. Can I say this?
Oh, of course, yes.
There is like a hunter who shoots a bird, and the Baal Shem Tov, if I'm not mistaken, is seeing this moment, or not, no, I don't know, I don't think it's Baal Shem Tov. But yeah, the man is shooting the bird, and he shot one. And behind the scene, there's like an angel that's manipulating all of the man's doing. Like if he shots the bird, the angel says shoot, shoot, and then if the man is not shooting the bird, the angel will say mercy. It's like every movement that has in this world has like a program in it.
That's
It's all
interesting.
program.
That's very much this other, like that God's really, there's a very high level of God, involvement, if that's the right word. That seems to be the preferred position in this classroom, at least. But not like the Bet Yosef.
Because it seems that Hashem created a system, and the system works by itself, and Hashem is not. There's no Ashgaha, let's say.
No. So then Hashgacha is when
depends on your actions.
Yeah. Like the story of Rabbi Akiva's daughter was a moment of Hashgacha. Nachon, because there's divine intervention in that story.
I mean, let's say a programmer writes a program. They know how the Havdilah, obviously, but they know how basically what's going to happen, the outcome, the output. So it makes sense that if a system is created, that the outcome would be known. Especially Hashem. It's not like Hashem doesn't make mistakes. So every leaf could be calculated that way. Okay, it doesn't mean that Hashem is like, this leaf on this tree in this town should fall at this second. It's not like that. Not that individually planned, but when the system was created in Machon Meir, then it was sort of set up that way. And Hashem knew that would happen. Of course, it doesn't mean that Hashem is consciously like causing that leaf to fall. I mean, obviously, it could be that too. It could be that too.
Because it says he kills them, make things live.
Yeah. Nachon.
I think it's better to quote as well when Hashem showed Moshe Rabbeinu how the story about when Moshe Rabbeinu is arriving in the Mount Sinai.
Yes.
He showed a story about a person who dropped a purse, and then one man pick it up, and then the first guy drop it, and then the second guy, I forgot the story, but it's like Hashem provided the explanation that the first guy killed the fathers of the second guy, and then I don't know if I'm a little bit familiar with this story.
You mean therefore it makes sense. That's why it was justified to.
Moshe Rabbeinu is just questioning why Hashem killed the third guy. He's innocent.
Yeah, but he didn't see the whole picture.
Yeah. So Hashem explained that the third guy killed the father of the first guy.
Interesting.
I think it's a mix of the two. Actually.
Yeah, there has to be, yes.
I think it's the mix. It's not totally one or the other one.
I think it's like on Shabbat. On Shabbat, we are forbidden to create something. Like we are allowed to work actually, but not allowed to create something. So
right.
Every work that creates something is forbidden. And maybe it's the same like Hashem created the world in 6 days, and now He's not creating. So it's like it's like Shabbat for Hashem. He's not creating anymore. And maybe he used for the leaves something like the Shon Shabbat or something. Like he predicted it in the creation. Like so, he's involved, but not really. Like
interesting. No, that I love the struggle. I love the struggle to try to find like where you think you should be. I just bless us all not to resolve it this evening. We should continue thinking it. Yeah, of course.
This, I think it makes sense. I think it's a mix of the two, in my poor opinion.
Why? No, in your opinion.
But at the same time, it is something that Hashem programmed, like you said. It's something that is going on in the automatic.
Right.
When the Torah says that Hashem came down, it means that he came into action, right? Meaning that before that it was the automatic move. Maybe it's a mix of the two. Yeah, he created, everything is going on the
But there's sort of where
But there are
there's
moments that Hashem come and say, no, I'm gonna interview and intervene.
yeah, intervene.
I
So
do
there's sort
something.
of there is. Oh, who spoke about the Sha'on Shabbat? Was that you? Who went the Sha'on Shabbat? I like your Sha'on Shabbat. No, it's also like there's a Sha'on Shabbat.
Because the Goyim say that's cheating. You're not allowed to, like, for example, putting a light on Shabbat. You switch it on Shabbat.
Yeah.
But I didn't switch it on Shabbat. I switched it on Friday. Not on
Yes,
Shabbat.
yes. Excellent, very good. Okay, so the Bet Yosef is fascinating over here. But first of all, I mean, it's sort of validating the idea of, you invoking the stars to understand the world. And part of my tefillah is that, do you know that I should be blessed with a mazal tov? Okay, but then he does, now maybe this is an answer to the questions that were asked at the beginning about this topic. This is a very important line. V'rabotenu hizhiru. Our rabbis warned us. Leval yasim adam machshavto be'elu hadvarim. V'yitle adam atzmo b'mi sha'amar v'haya ha'olam v'hu b'rachamav yatzil avadav mipega rav v'yomru azeh minayin she'en sho'alim be'kaldiyim tamud lomar tamim tiyeh Hashem Elokecha. Those words are really very important words over there. Then saying that the rabbis were very sort of focused in telling us that we should not get carried away by these things. But sort of that is, I'm predestined to do this and I'm predestined to do that. But rather, we should put our faith in the Creator of the world, in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and our relationship should be one of Tamim Tiyem Hashem Elokecha. Tamim Tiyem Hashem Elokecha means not getting complicated, not trying to manipulate, not trying to figure out what's going on, not trying to beat the system, if that's the right word. But you have to be Tamim Tiyem Hashem Elokecha, that we do the right thing. Like we saw the daughter of Rabbi Akiva, she didn't give this to the poor person, this meal to him in order to save her life. She gave it to him because that was the right thing to do, and she was rewarded because as a result she overcame her mazal and her life was saved. So our responsibility is to do the right thing. Like when we do the right thing, we can free ourselves from the influence of the stars. We're not bound by the stars. She wasn't choosing to overcome the stars. She was just choosing to do the right thing. And our responsibility is not to get to, in Israel they call them a chochmalog. We try to beat the system, try to figure out the system, try to manipulate the system. That's not what we're going to do. Understand, there's two things that are almost contradictory, but they live very much together. Mm-hmm. There is a concept of the stars, meaning it's true they exist. And at the first sentence of the Bet Yosef said that people explore them, and that's fine. Our whole introduction from the Shemesh Shmuel about Nisan and Iyar and Sivan, and obviously when we talk about Tishrei is also, that the months do have flavor to them. And if you're born in this month, you'll be like, that's all true, but you shouldn't use that information to manipulate things to your advantage. We just do the right thing at all times. You follow? Meaning, on the one hand, I like the balance. On the one hand, we're not saying that everything is determined on what you do, because that's not true. The concept of mazal exists. It's real. And we've seen examples. It's real. So I can't just say it doesn't exist. And everything depends on, purely what I do. That's on the one. On the other hand, I can't say that it's all about the stars and everything is predetermined. And if I read the stars and then do this, do that, I can try to, manipulate the system. On the other hand, the knowledge that the knowledge that the system exists does not allow me to manipulate the system. My relationship should always remain one of Tamim Tiyem Hashem Elokecha. That's the lovely maskona of the Bet Yosef. Okay, the sweet, wonderful people. I want to summarize very quickly, and then we'll move on to magic. but the magic will have to wait for next week. I wanted to mention this week only because I wanted to get this pre-Shavuot idea in of Gemini Shavuot. It fits in so beautifully. We see that astrology is real. Not the astrology that we read about in the newspapers today, but the concept of mazal is real. There is a planetary influence on the world, but that planetary influence should not impact my avodat Hashem. I can study it. It's an interesting science. I can study it to understand things in the world. If I'm curious, it can be a fun activity, but I mustn't use it to manipulate the system in my avodat Hashem. My avodat Hashem needs to remain one of tamim tiyeh Hashem Elokecha. With these beautiful paradox, it's a perfect way to enter into Yom Yerushalayim, into Chag HaShavuot. The world is much bigger than we think it is. There's lots of stuff that we don't see, but exists. Understand, the world, everything is much bigger than we think. It's not just what you see is what there is. The world is much bigger, but my role in the world is Tamim Tiyeh Hashem Elokecha, that I should, serve Hashem benachat, and not too complicatedly. Yeah. Joy, happiness, questions, comments, he'arot.
Does it influence the personality when you were born?
Yes, we saw the kippah. Yes, it does.
Actually, it's discussed in the Masechet Shabbat, if I'm not mistaken, page 56, the bet, 55 or 56. Like there's like a chart of day, hours.
Yes.
How is your nature?
Yes.
On the Mars, Moon, Sun.
About people who.
That's true as well.
But I think it's character traits. It's not.
Not about future.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's not saying you're going to be this or you're going to be that. But you're right. Yeah, the world is much more complicated than we think it is.
But can you use this to find a shidur, etc.?
No, don't think so. No, because we have to be tamimim in Hashem Elokecha.
Yeah, because if you are X and your shidur is supposed to be Y, because you match, why not?
Perfect.
If it's no. I'm asking a question.
Look, I don't think we are. I don't think we are as bound as that.
So, but why does it exist?
Oh, that I don't understand. We don't understand. Why did God create the world in this way? That I don't know.
Okay.
I can't understand. But I'll just say shkach to all of you, and we'll pause at this juncture. Yishar kach to all of you.